Hello class, Mom says here, signing on. This is now the continuation of our discussion about Introduction to HTML. We are now on the part 5. Let's begin. Let's talk about writing clean code. When I'm talking about clean code, I'm talking about learning how to write code that's going to work on as many devices as possible. In order to do that, you need to know a little bit about the document object model, also called the DOM. When HTML5 was developed, the main kind of driving goal is that they want to stick by the standard, that any new features should be based on HTML, CSS, the DOM, and JavaScript. And you can have a chance to learn about each one of those. But I want to talk about the DOM for just a little bit because it's going to help you understand the HTML a little bit better. One of the things about geeky computer scientists is that they love trees. Not like trees outside that are green and beautiful in the fall. The mathematical trees that we are referring to. These tree-like structures that we can prove to be valid or invalid. So when we talk about HTML as a tree, we're talking about this idea that at the very root of the tree, we are going to be creating HTML. And from that tree, when we say, I'm going to make an HTML document, we want the parts, we want the head over here, and we want the body in the head. We're going to keep all that kind of information that the user isn't going to see for the most part. The one difference is we might talk about the title, but we're going to have all of that kind of hidden stuff nobody really cares about. In the body is where we going to learn to put all of our HTML5 tags. So let's talk about HTML as a tree. In this case, I'm showing you this idea that at the root of every HTML page should be what's called the HTML tag. That kind of thing that says, lets the browser know. I'm going to be giving you certain types of tags, and here's how I want them to work. If we don't look at it as a picture, I can also kind of just tell you that every tree has three parts to a well-formed document. The Doctype, which is the version of HTML that you're going to be using. The head, which is all of the metadata or kind of extra information. And the body. The body is the displayable content, the thing that most people are going to get back when they do the request response cycle. So let's talk doc type. You're so lucky when others are creating web pages at first and they were in HTML4. They had to come up with all these different ways to kind of explain whether our HTML4 was very strict standards or whether it was transitional. In HTML5, it's very simple to say, no, there's only one thing and it's called doc Doctype HTML, and you're all set. For the head, which is inside the head tag, we're going to have all this additional information used by the browser. So for instance, you might want to say what language you're creating your page in. You could also include, and you really want to include, what the title of your page is. When I am talking about the title, I'm not talking about big kind of header that you see. I'm talking about the little tiny thing you see in the top of your browser. Later, you might want to add supporting files as well. You might want to have CSS files that will style your page, or JavaScript that can add on different interaction, or really any type of add-ons that are going to change the way people view and interact with your site. Other than the title, the metadata is not displayed. People will not see it. What people do see is the information that is in your body tag. The body tag is the bulk of your page, so it's very important to write well formatted or tree-like, the tree-like code where you're making sure that every tag has an end, that you're not putting tags in word orders. So most of the content in the body is displayed by the browser, but every once in a while there's a little bit of metadata in there too. But we're not going to hit that in this class. So let's look at an example. Right here, I have a file. This is called template.html, and I'm displaying the code here on this screen of course, for you. Can you find the three parts of a well-formed document? The first thing you want to look for is the doc type. We've got that right here, letting you know that this is an HTML5 document. We then have the HTML tag, which was the root of our really scientific tree. And I'm letting people know I'd like the language that it's displayed in to be English. In the head section, we've got that metadata where it's telling us things like, hey, I know that there's lots of different keyboards and way across the world to represent letters. I want you to use what's called UTF-8. Don't worry, that's just use it every time. Then the next part of my metadata is the title, where we want to see it saying my first page. That's it. That's two of the three parts. The last part is the body tag, and it's displaying the content that we want to see on the screen. So let's look at this in a browser. What do I have? I have my title way up here and my displayable content right down there. I have written the code. The next step you should always do is validate the code. Again, after writing the code, the next step you should always do is validate the code. Say you have written the code, it looks good, but I know that browsers are very nice and they make things display nicely even when you haven't written good code. So if you go to validator.w3.org, You can check any website to see if the code is valid, and you have three choices. You can upload the URL, you can upload the file, or you can actually copy and paste your code and put it right in there. In this case, you put in the URL to template.html, run, check. And yes, not surprisingly, because you knew it was going to be taping this, it successfully checked. Don't worry about warnings. Warnings are usually in to cover themselves. So let's have an example of how are you going to validate your source code in HTML5. So first you type in the URL, the website, https validator.w3.org. Okay, so that's how are you going to be prompted in here. I just retyped it so you would remember how to go to this website. Now you have, as explained earlier, there are so many ways to validate your HTML5 code. You can validate it by the URL if it is already on the site, if your web page is already uploaded online, viewable online, you could just simply type the URL here, then validate your source code. If not, if you have your file with you, you could upload it, the whole file itself. Or you could simply copy paste your source code and then checked it here. So for example, this is our source code. So highlight it all, Control C on your keyboard, and then paste it here. Then let's try to validate the source code. No changes for this as of now. We will not be needing this. So you could just simply hide it. And then let's check the source code by clicking the check button. And then give some time to the browser to check your source code, especially if the code, your HTML code is very long. So it would take time. Also, the speed of your internet connection is one of the factors that should be in consideration to so as to check if how fast is the checking of your source code. Now you may check everything in here. Doing this validating your source code would help you to troubleshoot your HTML5 code. So let's click on the check button again. Then give some time to the browser to check your source code word by word, line by line. Give some time to the browser while it loads. Now you can look at the lower part, scroll down to check the reports. So it says document checking completed, no errors or warnings to show. No images in the document, obviously. And these are the source code, line by line. And this is what is to be displayed and the structures. So since our sample code is very short, then we have this kind of report. Now let's try to, if for example your source code has an error in it, let's not remove the close tag. Let's see what will happen. Now let's click on the check again, check button. And of course, give some times again to the browser to check your code. So let's take a look. Say you see. Now we have errors. Heading with just one little error, no close tag. You see what happened in the reports. There are four. There are many comments in the source code that we provided online. So heading, can it be a child of another heading? So by doing this, you can, before you upload your web page, you can immediately check if there are errors on your source code. Okay, so this is one way of troubleshooting our HTML5 code. And then you can troubleshoot it. This will help you to troubleshoot your work. Okay, so I hope as we go along with our discussions, we do all the exercises. This validator could help you troubleshoot your source code and develop your skills in web designing. This time, checking complete, no errors. So just to review, you really want to follow the OM structure if you want a well-formed page. Following that structure means you always use beginning and end tags. Also, you close inner tags before outer ones. What that means is if you start a title tag, you've got to end it before you end the body tag. You also will want to use valid attributes, which is one of the things we're going to talk about a little later when we talk about images and basically parts of your page that need extra information. The problem with browsers is that they'll actually fix bad code for you. I always call them the helicopter parents of coding. It's like, I know what you wanted it to look like, so that's the way I'm going to make it look on the screen. The problem is that doesn't always work for everyone. So just because your site looks good to you when you're looking at it on your browser doesn't mean it's right. You have to use a validator to check your code. This is Mom says saying success is a beautiful place and only those who never give up will get the chance to be there. That ends our discussion for part 5. Watch out for more video tutorials. Stay safe and God bless everyone. Thank you for watching. This is Mom Says, signing off.